No one felt Foolio's death more deeply than his mother, Sandria's Mays. And now, she's taking justice into her own hands, right in the courtroom. In a packed Florida courtroom filled with attorneys, bailiffs, and stunned onlookers, a mother rose to her feet. No trembling voice, no shaky hands, just raw emotion and words that sliced through the silence like broken glass. "I want you to look at me," she said, locking eyes with the men accused of orchestrating and carrying out her son's murder. "I lost my son, but you ain't seen a fight yet." That mother was Sandria's Mays, the grieving mom of Julio Foolio, the Jacksonville drill rapper gunned down on his 26th birthday in a Tampa hotel parking lot. And the men she stared down were the alleged shooters, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy, all facing first-degree murder charges. One of their accomplices, a pregnant woman, is believed to have flipped on them. But no one saw this coming. Not during the arraignment. Not in court. Not from a mother who had already survived being shot 8 times herself in a separate incident tied to her son's street war. This moment didn't just shake the room, it could shift the momentum of the entire case.
As everybody know, that I got shot 8 times going to work early in the morning.
This wasn't just a court appearance, it was a reckoning. And the craziest part? Some of the people involved in Foolio's murder may have already been close enough to know exactly where his birthday celebration was going down. The tragic twist? It was Foolio himself who posted the location on Instagram. But before we peel back the layers of this entire saga, you need to understand one thing. Julio Foolio wasn't just a rapper, he was a storm magnet. From viral diss tracks mocking dead rivals to interviews where he practically invited the smoke, Foolio's career constantly walked the razor's edge between fame and fatal consequences. And his mother, Sandria's, saw it coming. She knew the danger. But nothing could prepare her for how real it would get.
People ask, where's his mom? It starts from the home, them not knowing that I stayed on him about this beef stuff, cussed him out, begged him to take stuff down, and when I was shot 8 times, I spared the lives of those even though mine was changed. Wow. And she just basically, spoke about the pain that she had to go through living with her son.
She begged him to leave the streets. She cried, she pleaded, and when the violence came for her, she survived being shot 8 times. Sandria's Mays lived to tell that story. But Foolio didn't. Now, beyond the headlines and courtroom drama, we have to ask the deeper question: who was Julio Foolio? To some, he was a menace. To others, a misunderstood visionary. Born Charles Jones, Foolio exploded onto the Jacksonville drill scene with raw, unfiltered lyrics that made him go viral and made him a target. His biggest moment? A track called When I See You, a haunting remix of Fantasia's Randy B. hit, laced with lyrics mocking slaying rivals. It racked up millions of views, and just as many enemies. He'd already survived a shooting. He wore bulletproof vests to interviews. But still, Foolio kept pushing the line. He'd go live on Instagram, drop his location, and openly challenge his ops, like he was untouchable. And that's exactly what he did on his 26th birthday. He messaged fans with the party address, thinking he was staying one step ahead. The reality? He was being watched the entire time.
I was just so surprised that he got all them enemies, man, and he was willing to go live everywhere he went and tell people, even to promote a birthday party. I think was crazy, man, knowing that, you still in your home state. I don't know why he didn't go out to like a different state and enjoy his birthday party. But if he was somewhere else, man, they probably wouldn't even got him, man.
Surveillance footage from the night of the shooting captured 3 men quietly moving into position around the Holiday Inn parking lot in Tampa. Then, in the early morning hours, the silence was shattered. A burst of gunfire lit up the scene. Foolio, riding in the passenger seat, never had a chance to react. He was hit multiple times. 3 others were wounded. Foolio didn't survive. Police later identified the alleged gunmen as Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy, connected not only by blood, but by gang ties and a digital trail that was impossible to erase. License plate readers, cell phone records, and surveillance cameras all traced their movements and linked them to 2 getaway vehicles. But the biggest twist came from a fourth suspect, a young woman named Alicia L. Andrews, reportedly pregnant at the time of her arrest. She's now said to be cooperating with authorities and may end up testifying against the others.
They think prison is a game until they get there.
I mean, yeah, the girl who is charged with the murder of Foolio, she's actually pregnant at the time, you know, so
And she's
she's cooperating.
But she telling it.
Yeah,
He's still gonna probably do 30
She
years.
asked for a speedy trial.
But this wasn't just a textbook gang hit, not if you ask Foolio's mother. She believes it was personal. And if the whispers inside the courthouse are true, then at least one of the suspects wasn't a stranger. He had spoken to her. He may have even sat at her table, shared a meal under her roof. That would explain the fire behind her courtroom outburst, a rage that didn't come from grief alone, but from betrayal. At the arraignment, the suspects sat stone-faced as the charges were read. But Sandria's wasn't there to stay silent. Her presence shook the room and made it clear this case was about more than just murder. This was personal.
Violence.
Remain seated. Come to order. Court is now in session.
According to those in the courtroom, Sandria's didn't just speak, she erupted. She pointed at the suspects, shouted their names, and cursed the very ground they walked on. Deputies had to restrain her. Others in the courtroom were in tears because this wasn't just about Foolio anymore. This was about a mother who had warned her son over and over. A mother who had survived her own assassination attempt. A mother who watched him ignore every red flag and now had to look straight into the eyes of the people accused of doing what years of beefs only threatened to do. And here's where things get even darker. One of the suspects, Davian Murphy, reportedly suffered a breakdown before his arrest, found at home with a gun to his head, threatening to take his own life. Why? Because they all knew what was coming. Especially now that one of their own, Alicia Andrews, is said to be cooperating. And in Florida, when you're facing a first-degree murder charge, cooperation from the inside could mean only one thing: someone's going down hard.
Florida will throw out the death penalty left and right.
In Texas.
Yeah, well, especially for premeditated murder.
This wasn't a random act of violence. It was cold, calculated, and premeditated. So how did it all spiral so far out of control? How did a young rapper who once claimed he wanted peace end up bleeding out in a Tampa parking lot? And what does his mother's courtroom breakdown really reveal about the decades-long chain of violence that made this moment feel almost inevitable? To understand what happened inside that courtroom, you've got to understand what was happening outside of it, in the streets of Jacksonville. Because Jacksonville isn't just a city. It's a battlefield. Since the early 2010s, rival crews turned blocks into war zones. KTA, ATK, Northside, Southside, Hilltop, Avenue B. If those names don't mean anything to you, they do to the mothers who've buried their sons because of them. Foolio, real name Charles Jones, didn't start out a menace. He was made into one. From playing sports and going to church to funerals and retaliation, the switch happened fast. He lost friends, survived shootings, and by 17, he was rapping about dead ops and mocking the pain of their families. And the music industry? It loved it. His biggest tracks, When I See You, BBY Story, weren't just diss songs. They were lyrical crime scenes. Taunts, threats, and brutal sarcasm turned into viral hits. He didn't just disrespect his rivals, he disrespected their graves. And his mother, Sandria's Mays, hated every second of it. To her, this wasn't music. It was blood money. And in July 2024, the price came due. On his 26th birthday, Foolio hosted what was supposed to be a private celebration in Tampa. Hours later, he was ambushed in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn. Surveillance footage showed gunmen taking position, then unleashing a hail of bullets. 3 others were hit. Foolio was pronounced dead at the scene. In court, the suspects barely reacted. But Sandria's blinked through tears. Because this wasn't just about Foolio anymore. This was about a city bleeding from every corner. About seeing the same young men who once ran through her backyard, now staring her down in a courtroom, charged with murdering her son. Sources say at least one of them had been inside her home. Might have eaten her food, laughed with her son, and then turned on him. Her outburst in court wasn't just emotion. It was a declaration. A vow that she won't let this slide quietly. Sandria's Mays is now working on a documentary, a project that will tell the story from her eyes. Not as the mother of a rapper, but as the mother of a war casualty in a battle that claimed too many sons, too many lives, and too many futures. And this trial? It's just the beginning.
Her eyes.
His mother, she released a statement saying that she wanted to do a documentary on her son and just kind of clearing the air and letting people know what she stood with his whole passing in his life and his legacy. And she said, it's the story that only I can tell because I know the truth from the fakes. I think I'm the only mother that keep it real while most others know damn well what was going on with their sons.
She says other mothers lied, pretended they didn't know what their sons were doing. Not her. She admits it. She saw the devil walking through her living room and tried to shut the door, but he kicked it in. Foolio mocked the dead. The dead returned the favor. And now his mother stands as the last voice echoing in a courtroom full of silence. So many questions remain unanswered. How did we get here? What led to the bloodshed? And did the controversial diss track seal Fio's fate? Death by diss. Fio didn't just rap. He taunted. He didn't just call out enemies. He named names, names of the dead, names of mothers' children. And every time he went viral for it, it wasn't just a hit record, it was a provocation. And in the streets of Jacksonville, provocation is a death wish. But before Fio became drill rap's most controversial provocateur, a different name dominated Florida's scene, someone who would eventually become Fio's most famous rival, Young Gene Ace. They didn't just beef, they declared war. It wasn't over money. It wasn't over a song. It started, like many tragedies, with blood. ATK, Ace's crew, and KTA, Fio's camp, had long been rivals. But things turned nuclear in 2017. That year, young Gene Ace survived a shooting that killed his brother and 2 friends. Fio laughed. Online. The streets took that as a declaration. Retaliations followed. Jacksonville's murder rate exploded, and rap fans nationwide turned it into entertainment. People were dying, and the internet was rating the diss tracks like Versus battles. Then, in 2021, Ace dropped one of the most infamous tracks in Florida drill history, Who I Smoked, set to Vanessa Carlton's gentle piano melody from 1,000 Miles. The track listed names of KTA members killed in gang warfare, with a hook that mocked their deaths. Foolio responded with When I See You, set to Fantasia's Randy B. ballad. The lyrics were anything but gentle. He named Ace's dead brother, added images from his funeral, and ended the track by saying he was smoking him. And with every new drop, the body count rose. Fio's discography reads like a murder mystery, except the suspects are never really hidden. He referenced street killings, real-life beefs, and people urinating on graves. Yes, you heard that right. One of Fio's affiliates allegedly urinated on the grave of a rival's brother. According to DJ Vlad and Escano, when you make songs about dead family members, expect retaliation. But Foolio never backed down. Not when fans warned him. Not when interviewers begged him to stop. Not even when he got shot the first time. He kept going. And so did his enemies. Behind the viral moments was a woman who couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe, couldn't convince her son to let it go. Sandria's Mays knew what was coming. She said,
I stayed on him about this beef stuff, cussed him out, begged him to take stuff down.
But Fio wasn't listening. Not when the money was rolling in, not when his shows were packed, and not when dissing dead ops brought him millions of streams. She couldn't reach him until the day she had to identify his body. The tragedy of Foolio isn't just that he died. It's that he saw it coming. In interviews, even Fio admitted his lifestyle came with consequences. Trenches News said it best, when rappers start talking peace, it's usually a red flag, not because they're bluffing, but because they can feel their enemies closing in. Fio hinted at squashing beefs. He even mentioned possibly making peace with young Gene Ace. But behind the scenes, he was still dropping his location, still going live with guns, and still moving reckless.
Let's see.
I was just so surprised that he got all them enemies, man, and he was willing to go live everywhere he went and tell people, even to promote a birthday party. I think was crazy, man.
Foolio was trying to walk a line that no one could survive, one foot in healing, the other in haunting. And in a place like Jacksonville, that balance always tips toward tragedy. He wasn't lacking in guidance. According to friends and family, people close to him constantly warned him, cool down, leave the city, stop disrespecting the dead. But Foolio was headstrong. Those who knew him say he was smart, calculated even, but ultimately addicted to chaos. He believed he could outwit his enemies, outrun the consequences, outlast karma. But deep down, he knew the clock was ticking. The breaking point may have come on his birthday. Foolio was in Tampa, just a few hours from home, publicly sharing his location like it was any other party, not like he was a man at war. That Instagram post wasn't just an invitation to celebrate. For his enemies, it was a target signal. And they answered. Foolio died doing exactly what made him famous, blurring the line between performance and provocation. His lyrics weren't metaphors, they were warnings, confessions, and sometimes outright threats. While other rappers left the city to avoid danger, Foolio stayed in the middle of it, kept his rivals close, too close. That decision made him a star, and ultimately, a victim. Why does his death still matter? Because Foolio wasn't the first to die by the rules of the game he played, and he won't be the last. There are others walking that same path now, convinced their bars make them bulletproof. Sandria's Mays, Foolio's mother, doesn't want sympathy, she wants awareness. In her upcoming documentary, she plans to lay everything bare, the names, the threats, and the warning signs the music industry chose to ignore. Foolio wasn't just a rapper. He was a son, a brother, a headline, a homicide report. His death wasn't some random street killing. It was predictable, scheduled, and enabled by a system that profits from pain. Sandria wants one truth made clear. The music industry watched this happen. Labels knew what Foolio's lyrics were stirring up. YouTube profited from every click. Spotify streamed his most toxic songs to millions. Blogs boosted every diss like it was sport. No one stepped in. No executives called to say enough. Instead, they booked him for bigger shows, fed his image into the algorithm, and rewarded the chaos with paychecks. This wasn't just a young man making poor choices. This was an ecosystem built to reward disrespect and punish vulnerability. Foolio may have embraced the recklessness, but he also spoke truth more raw and brutally honest than most. That truth cost him everything. Since his death, KTA has gone silent. The young rappers Foolio mentored have stopped posting. Some have made their profiles private. Others have deleted entire songs. Meanwhile, even ATK, Foolio's fiercest rivals, have gone unusually quiet. Young Gene Ace, known for his bold statements, hasn't publicly mocked Foolio's death. And that silence has people wondering, did it finally go too far? Whether out of fear of RICO charges or a rare moment of remorse, Jacksonville's drill scene has gone quiet. And that silence says more than any diss track ever could. What's most devastating in this whole saga isn't just the rappers dying young, it's the mothers left to bury them. Sandria says she doesn't hate them. She understands. Because when your child is in the streets, there's only so much a mother can do. But she's urging other moms to speak now, before it's too late. Drill music isn't going anywhere. The culture won't vanish overnight. But Foolio's story is a warning flare. This path only ends one of two ways, death or prison. And Sandria is making sure that message is heard loud and clear. She may have lost her son, but she refuses to let his memory be reduced to a diss track, a mugshot, or a viral video. She's turning her grief into a megaphone. And with every interview, every social media post, and every courtroom appearance, she's fighting to give Foolio's story meaning. That fight reached a boiling point in court. It was supposed to be a routine arraignment, 3 suspects led in, shackled, as cameras quietly rolled and reporters scribbled notes they'd soon forget. But that hearing became something no one could ignore. Sandria had stayed composed through most of it. Her face was tight, her eyes locked. But when prosecutors read the charges, first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated battery, something inside her snapped. She screamed. And in that scream was every warning ignored, every bullet dodged, and every prayer unanswered. It wasn't just grief, it was a reckoning.
He screamed, "You took my baby. I hope they fry. I hope they rot."
The courtroom fell silent. Even the defendants turned their heads to look. One of them, according to witnesses, smirked. That's when Sandria lunged. Deputies immediately restrained her. Her family burst into tears. The judge slammed the gavel, calling for order. But Sandria didn't care about courtroom decorum. She wasn't there for protocol. She was there for justice, and she wasn't about to whisper for it. On trial were three men, Sean Guy, Devon Murphy, and Rashad Murphy. Their arrests were not the result of some lucky break. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence, surveillance footage from the Holiday Inn, cell tower triangulation, license plate reader hits, and multiple witness statements. But the real twist came from the fourth suspect, a woman. Not only was she allegedly involved in the planning and execution of the murder, but she was also pregnant at the time of the shooting. And now, she's fully cooperating with law enforcement. Her testimony could dismantle the entire defense. But it also raised an unsettling question: how deep did this conspiracy go? Court documents suggest the suspects may have known Foolio's exact movements before his birthday party. How? Through social media? Private DMs? Or, worse, someone within Foolio's own circle? That possibility has sparked speculation that this wasn't just a random act of violence, it was a setup. A calculated, premeditated execution. And that's what makes Sandria's fury so raw, so justified. What many observers found most disturbing was how numb the courtroom felt. As Sandria cried, screaming through her grief, with deputies holding her back, the court machine rolled on. Prosecutors continued reading the charges. The judge demanded silence. And the defendants stared blankly ahead, their faces unreadable. It was as if the system built to deliver justice had forgotten how to feel. But the public felt it. Within hours, clips from the courtroom were all over the internet. Millions watched. Thousands commented. Some called Sandria brave. Others said she crossed the line. But everyone agreed on one thing: that was the sound of a mother who had buried too many sons. And that sound, unfiltered, anguished, human, is now echoing across every platform. From memes and TikToks to news reels and explainer videos, Sandria's pain couldn't be ignored. For once, the internet wasn't numb. The pain was too real to scroll past. And this wasn't her first time facing death. Years earlier, Sandria survived being shot 8 times in what many believe was a targeted hit linked to Foolio's ongoing beefs. She had already paid the price for being close to the fire. And now, she's watching the system try to sift through the ashes. But for her, there's no justice unless it feels something.
Everybody know that I got shot 8 times going to work early in the morning.
She barely survived, and she's been carrying the physical and emotional scars ever since. While her body healed, her son's name kept making headlines. Foolio dropped diss tracks, went on tours, pulled in millions of views. But the bullets never stopped flying. And when he was finally gunned down, when she had to bury him with her own hands, something inside her snapped. The dam broke. Now, as the trial approaches, the biggest questions still remain unanswered. Who gave up Foolio's location? How many people helped plan the hit? Will the cooperating suspect name more than just the shooters? And is there any hope of accountability for the platforms and labels that profited off all the bloodshed? Sandria wants answers, and she's demanding them, not just in court, but far beyond it. She's not just grieving. She's documenting. Yes, Sandria is working on a documentary. And she says it won't be like anything that's come before. Because she didn't just witness this story, she lived it. And she survived it. Twice. She's already met with independent producers. She saved voice notes, screenshots, and photos. She's archived every detail. She wants the world to understand what Jacksonville's drill culture did to her son and what the court system still hasn't undone. The suspects remain in custody. Pretrial hearings are on the calendar. And Sandria's? She's vowed to be at every single one. She says she's ready to testify. Ready to look the killers in the eyes again. Ready to speak her truth with no filter. Prosecutors are building a case for premeditated murder. And according to insiders, the cooperating witness could be the final nail in the coffin. The suspects weren't just caught by surveillance. They were caught by the very people they trusted. Caught by cell phones. Caught on camera. Caught in their own web. By all accounts, this case is airtight. But to Sandria's, the only thing airtight was the casket she had to buy. She doesn't want revenge. She wants awareness. She wants young artists to understand that no diss track, no view count, no viral moment is worth your mother's tears. She wants the world to see that drill music isn't just entertainment, it's life and death. The consequences are real. And Foolio's death isn't just another headline. It's a symbol. A symbol of a broken culture. A symbol of a mother who was ignored. A symbol of a system that amplifies the chaos, but silences the grief. If this video spoke to you, click on the other videos on your screen right now. We've got more real stories that dig beneath the surface. Stay aware. Stay safe. Stay watching.